Hello, it's Masati, and welcome to my podcast, Exponential Intelligence. This is part two of the physics of the new world. We're going to jump right into on where we left off on part one. Moving on to the next question: how will the future awakened leaders' attitude look like? The awakened leaders, and I just talked about this somewhere. I'll just talk about it again. I was just talking about leaders, and the big thing about leaders is that, well, that, like the saying goes, by the power vested in me by the state of, you know, California, or, by the country of whatever, or maybe you have a title, or maybe you created this invention, or you know somebody in power, or you have a lot of money. So those powers, right? The abilities that you have, or the control that you have, or the leadership that you have comes from an outside source. You have no power in and of yourself. So that power gets taken away. You're nobody. People listen to you because, one, maybe you have a lot of money, maybe you're popular, maybe you're gifted or talented. You move away from that power or ability or gift or talent, you're nobody. Nobody cares for you, right? You just get lost, just like old past performers, so on like that, right? Old actors, actresses, right? They're out, they're gone. Nobody cares. That's not true with people with real leadership. You don't get forgotten. Look at the great individuals like a Buddha or Jesus or Muhammad and many others. They don't get forgotten. Even outside of, say, those three, great individuals that have brought in an invention or concept or an idea, say like Einstein or say a Tesla. So was it, and there's a difference there why their names live on, and it's not because of their inventions or concepts or ideas, because of who they were at a deeper level. That resonance still sticks. So those are the type of leaders. The type of leaders that are in the future, I call them XI leaders, are leaders that have a thinner, say, connection, a more transparent connection between, again, their timeless self, their time-bound self, right? The space in between is a lot thinner. They've merged more. They have that power, that limitless power that comes from deep within, and it shows through, it exudes through. Your wealth will be based on, say, how ascended you are. So the more ascended you are, the more abundant this reality would be for you, the more luxury items, so on. So that comes back into balance as well. It's not a facade where the more money you have says, hey, look, I am ascended. Basically, that's what you're saying. Again, it's all a misrepresentation. So when people aspire for money, and that's why money has such a draw. Same thing with leadership or craving power. It has such a draw. This is why people, say, kill and do a lot worse things than they would ever do with anything else, is because they have that craving, that need to connect to themselves so deep. And they think that making mass amounts of money, having mass amounts of control, is going to take them there. Fortunately, it doesn't. Okay? So in the new realm, in the new world, as you ascend higher, right, that fire or that inner source power shows through. It exudes through. You become brighter. You could become grander. When people look at you, they're not jealous. They're not going to hate you. They're going to aspire to you. That's what real leadership is, right? Even say if you have haters or people that don't agree with you, they'll admire you. They'll honor you. Let's go to take a deep breath in. Do we need leaders in the future world, or will everyone be a strong leader because they are awake? Really good question. There's always going to be people who are at higher realms. We're not all going to be at the same level. Okay? But again, what we're going to get rid of is, say, the weakness. Okay? People who need other people to support themselves, to create an identity for them. So let me just say that again, because it's very important. So people who need support by others to create an identity for them here. So, so let that sink in. So what that means is that it's not that when you come to a higher level, you don't need anybody, because we're human beings. We need that touch, feel of other people. That's what, we're social animals, frequencies. We're social beings. So we need that. We cherish that. We love that. That's what we work for. Okay? It's one of the best feelings is to fall in love, and get really intimate with another one that's high, to create even, say, more higher realities. But coming back here, so what that means is that everybody would be at a level where they're self-sustaining. So you're not burdening anybody. People aren't, say, having to hold you up. Right? We're all self-sufficient. So what that means at the physical realm is that we would all have a healthy state. We'd all have, say, abundance at a certain level. Okay? We're not going to be shortage. We're not going to be hungry or anything like that, unless you desire to experience that as, say, an experience, kind of like Westworld, right? Westworld, I think it was a Netflix series, right? Where you pay and then you could go and be anybody that you want. They went back into the West. So it's of that nature. But again, everybody has a certain standard that they never go below. So will there be disease and so on? Probably, but not like, what we see here. Basically, it's a fading out of disease, right? Just like the animal world. If you really look at it, there's not disease. And if there is, it usually filters itself out within 1 or 2 generations. So, again, everybody's going to be at a certain standard, and then there's going to be leaders at higher levels go, hey, guys, look, I found this path. Let's go over here. And then, well, we sent higher. And the way this works is uh, conventional hierarchy. Basically, the person on top dictates everybody below, and it's like a pyramid scheme, right? And corporations, religious, political systems, family structure, and so on, like that. Pretty much a pyramid scheme. So again, the top person is supported by the people below. If you've ever noticed, have you ever wondered, and just to give you a little deeper insight on this, have you ever noticed that, the government systems, why they need so many people? It's not because it's a tax base or money or anything like that. Got nothing to do with that. They could literally, create a virus or whatever, and they have in the past, but they could literally create a virus, just wipe everybody out, and just have, say, that small family, or a few small families that control everybody, right? And there wouldn't be no issues. There wouldn't be any wars. There wouldn't be anything like that, right? Think of it. But why do we need so many? Why does the Catholic religion, it's like keep propagating, right? Well, there's a reason for it, a deeper reason, because at the level that we're at, consciousness that we're at, the consciousness has to maintain itself. And it's very ferocious. It has to have more and more and more and more people. Otherwise, this pyramid topples. Because it has to have more and more people to feed, Because as we become more and more awakened through that uh, um, universal, say, wave, purity wave washing through, well, we become awakened, so we become, say, less nutritious for the distortions, if that makes sense. So all the spirits below, and I know I'm going deeper. So the spirits below, right? We would need more spirits because those spirits are awakened. They can't be fooled. They can't be controlled as much. They can't be, say, their lives can't be, say, sucked out of them to feed the people on top. That makes sense to you. If it doesn't, it's okay. For those, makes sense. Fantastic. But think about it. So we need more and more and more and more. Just like any pyramid scheme. And again, network marketing, there's nothing wrong with network marketing. Some of the fantastic products are out there. But network marketing, religious and all that, right? They need more people, more people, more people. This is the reason, this is the base reason why. It can't exist, it can't keep, say, existing. It can't keep living unless it feeds upon more people. So that's why. And then obviously we have a tax base and all that stuff. So in the new paradigm, it doesn't work that way. In the new paradigm, there's leaders up there, but that the leader isn't held up by the people below. Nobody's held up by, say, the layers below. What happens is more of a, like a vacuum. It's a vacuum. It's kind of a push and pull type. So the leaders, so to speak, say, pull up on the consciousness below them, right? And you can actually, well, I'll explain. So the leaders, say, pull up on the consciousness below them. So the people underneath, they get pulled up. And as they get pulled up, say, it creates a surge or wave that pushes the leaders higher up. And it keeps continuing on. So it's a really efficient system. And that doesn't mean that the leaders always, say, those specific leaders always stay those specific leaders, because anybody can move up the ranks or go down the ranks. So many of you are feeling it because many of you have, personal connection with me, is that I am, say, this past few weeks, my goodness, it's almost like I get upgraded like every other day, every day. So I sleep a lot. Many of you are going, yeah, I'm sleeping a lot. This is why. Because as I get upgraded, those individuals who are doing EI, even like, the new ones that are just coming in, you're going to get pulled up. The magnitude on how you get pulled up, on how awakened you get. So as I awaken, many of you are awakening. And then people, again, who know my personal info, they go, hey, Moss, did you get upgraded? Because I felt something. Well, yes. And they're very accurate. So that's how that happens. So imagine that paradigm. It's pretty cool, isn't it? Religion have affected the humanity on to the extreme. All the religion is made as a control source. It's all about control and money. We have had 2019 years to awaken, but we are not awake. Religion have brought shame and guilt to humanity. I think you have been talking about that 80-90% of humanity is on the lower level of consciousness. At 20 to 30 frequencies is shame and guilt. Yes. How was this possible to happen and still are controlling us? Um, so it goes deeper than, say, religion, because religion isn't the start. Religion is a byproduct of, say, what happened in the past. So just to give you an idea, and it really pushes, say, the envelope for your belief systems. Okay. So I'm just going to get into it a little bit, and as you, say, get more accustomed to it, we'll delve into it more. Okay. But again, many people listening, you're just not ready for it. So, and it's not like I'm holding information back, but it wouldn't benefit you. So way back in the day, when you say, when time and space was created, okay, there would have had to create this time and space, and then to create you, in this reality, there would have to be, say, duality, which is a myth. But I won't I won't get into that, okay? Because we have to understand this space first. So let's just understand it as a duality. Okay? So you have light and dark, hot and cold, and so on like that. Reference points, because we need reference points in this reality, in this time-space continuum, okay, which is a 24-hour cycle, let's say, just to get a little more specific. Um, we need those reference points for you to understand where you are. Your five senses allow you to understand where you are, right? The five senses, touch, light, touch, sensation, hearing, taste, and so on. And then, say, the sixth sense, this is that fourth coordinate. So the five senses here allow you to understand your reality and play around with it and know where you are in this reality. Those who are a little messed up, that's why you're messed up, because your five senses don't say don't give you, say, precision coordinates on where you are in this space-time, in this 3D reality. So those individuals out of time don't feel like they're here, don't want to be here, and so on and so on. Some of the mental issues, instabilities, and so on like that are for this reason. Some of the it's like nervous system disorders and so on. And the reason I can back this up is because I've helped people heal themselves from a lot of those situations, mental states, nervous disorders, and so on like that. Okay. Again, I'm not a doctor or anything. I'm not saying I cure anybody, but I help them awaken themselves to cure themselves or heal themselves. And it is a time distortion. So the see this, and there's so much information. So, and I'm just trying to say align it because my brain doesn't work linear. Yours shouldn't either. It wasn't built to work linear. It's more spatial. So creating, say, maps or mind maps. Okay? So, so five senses, and then your sixth sense allows you to understand where you are in the fourth coordinate. So basically, what that would mean is that if that sixth sense wasn't there, you could create this reality because you're creating the reality around you. I call it your sphere of influence. Okay? You're creating the reality around you. It's a combined creation. So if that sixth sense wasn't there, say that you were, say, 10 years off, right? 10 years back into the future, you would see things from 10 years ago. You wouldn't see anything 10 years forward. So think of that. I'm not going to get into the details because that's like a whole different podcast. Okay, so what does that have to do with, say, religion, so on like that? So well, it has to do a lot. So let me put the two together. So over time, what happens? Again, you are, say, of pure consciousness. You are, well, present because there's no time and space, right? Again, to create this reality or density, you would have to have reference points, duality, time and space. That's how time and space works. To create the duality or heaviness, right? Or what you can feel, see, touch, and so on. So over time, we get a little more disconnected. So, and it's not that we've gotten worse, by the way. That's something else too. Again, there's so much knowledge that I'm trying to pack in. It'll take like a week seminar. So over time, just to make it short, we get pulled away from the present moment again by creating filters, and then we get pulled so far away that, well, some of the darkness that's needed in this reality starts to, say, consume us or control us. Does that make sense to you? Say, for example, just to give you a clear perspective, is that, well, you need brilliance, you need life here in this reality. Well, to balance it off, you need death or decay. So maybe that's a simpler example. So hopefully this example will help clarify this other example that I mentioned earlier. Okay. So this reality is based on life and death. Okay. In nature, what happens is that you live, things blossom, things, create life, and then, well, they wither away and die, and they decay. So the decay aspect, it's a pure frequency. It's not dark. Again, let me stress that. It's not dark. It's something that is. It's a great recycle fertilizer for us to blossom. So it's a cycle that we get more and more and more in tune and stronger and better, right? More vibrant. Because what decays creates nourishment for our new selves. Over time, what's happened is that as we've kind of gotten pulled out of our reality or of who we are, again, by adding those filters, well, man at some level has started to see um, the energies or frequencies of decay. And just like, say, we've created fire and then we start to create, just like we didn't create fire, but we harnessed the power of fire, right? So basically, we harness the power of decay. So when we harness the power of decay, this is where superstitious comes in. This is where ghosts come in. This is where evil spirits come in. This is where entities come in. This is where well, the devil, so to speak, comes in, and so on. Right? Again, that original form. Right? It's not that God created all these things to control you. It didn't create, decay. It didn't create illness. It didn't create all that. Again, it's a disconnect from our awareness of time. Just because we were very naive. I mean, it's just like you get a brand new tool, we don't know how to use it. So over time, that's what's happened. If that makes sense to you. And then as we've, say, harnessed the power of decay for our own control, right? And it works really well. Well, we start to control others by it. And again, this is where voodoo, magic, control sources, religion, and all those things start to spread out. And as it spreads out, because we're great manifestors, well, it creates more power, more consciousness, creates an auric field, hence Satan, say, blossoms, or the definition of Satan, so to speak, blossoms. It's not the real Satan as we think of it from a high order dropping down. That makes no sense. And again, we're not going to talk about that. But as we create this more, well, more momentum in this, just like anything else, it creates momentum of its own, too much to control. And then it takes over. And this is where religion and everything else starts to take over. And then another aspect of it as well, and I know it's going to open up a lot of questions, so again, write them in, mossei@mossajati.com, because again, I can't answer everything, because it's literally, it's rewriting the way we see this reality. It's not the way it's been written or thought of in any way. Okay? Many of you are starting to find out. And again, say this description of it can be backed up. It's always duplicatable. There's no exceptions to the rule. It's not that the other realities are wrong. It's that the other realities work in the lower level frequencies, or the other reasons or paradigms or principles. Again, they just work at the lower level frequencies, and there's always exceptions to those rules. That's why. So this is a higher level explanation of how it really is. Simple as that. Although it might look very difficult, once we understand it, it's very simple. It's logical. So, so just to clarify, um, One, just want to make sure that even if you're atheist, you see, say, another order, there's only one source that creates everything. From that, it's gotten distorted by time and space as a separation of our identities. And then we harnessed, again, say decay, harness that. And then from there, it's got out of hand, right? And now it controls us. Hence, through religion, belief systems, superstition, and so on like that. Wow, a lot of questions. People who live from the higher consciousness will influence other people. It's not only people who are working as healers that will change people and the world. How would you say that these mechanisms of influence happen? Uh, Again, it's not what you're doing, it's who you are. It's a whole new business paradigm, the way families work, the way money works. Everything is about, say, ascending or helping people ascend. Steve Jobs with the iPhone. So, do you think it was a piece of machinery, a mechanism that was so popular or made it so popular? Do you think it was the technology, the advanced technology in the iPhone that made it, a fantastic product? That millions of people would literally lose their identity and create an identity attached to the iPhone for him. Do you think it was the physical properties of that? There were plenty of other phones that were much faster, much easier to use, cheaper. But why the iPhone? So obviously it got out of hand, got a little destructive as his ego came in. Okay? So he couldn't even control it. Again, because he was running an old paradigm. At first it was, let's say, the new beginnings of a new paradigm, but he didn't quite know how to take it into that other space, and he kind of went back down into old consciousness. So again, the matrix that he tried to break free from, right? He broke free. He didn't know how to stay up at that level. He went back down and created his own matrix of control and so on. In this new paradigm, that's not going to happen. As we break free out of this matrix, we're going to find ways that consciousness, the tools, whatever we need to stay into this new consciousness and not fall back into another matrix or a different form of the same matrix. Again, that's a side note. And again, I'm throwing a lot of stuff out at you guys. It's okay if you're confused. Just think about it. Just let it settle in. Ideas, concepts, awarenesses, that aha moment will show up for you later. I can guarantee it. That's the way XI works. Okay? But coming back to the question of the iPhone, a lot of people would look at it and go, well, Steve was a great marketer, was a great promoter, was a great leader, and that's why the iPhone was successful. It was it had the best gadgets and so on. Again, proved that was wrong. Um, so what was it? Well, he wasn't really much of a leader, because a true leader, his legacy would continue on. If you think about it, right? As soon as Steve, say the first time he left, the company went bankrupt, close to bankruptcy. He came back in. It was a resurgence, and then he died. Well, the company hasn't made any other great products. So what the hell happened? A great leader would continue on that legacy, and the company would expand with or without him, or with or without them. So that's how I define a great leader. I think that's how many people define great leaders, many successful individuals. So again, well, great leader, yeah, not so. Um, Great motivator, yes. Great boss to work for, great leader, great business person. Not really some of the background stuff that he's done. government and so on, and how he handled business. Well, that wasn't so great either. And obviously the way he handled employees, people, and so on like that. Well, that wasn't so great either. So why was it so popular? And as this stuff came out about Steve Jobs, people refused to believe it. By the way, and I'm just picking Steve Jobs as a clear example. There are many other situations, um, not as grand as this, but there are other situations. The same principles exist. So again, why the iPhone? Because Steve instilled his frequency. Okay? Obviously, let's just say he's not from here. He has a different level of frequency, right? That frequency of creativity, of desire, of say playing in this world. I talked about this, by the way, in one of my other podcasts, Live Conversations with Dead People. It's a really great podcast to help understand Steve Jobs. Again, a fantastic individual. So in each invention that he created, it was the frequency of Steve in the product. He figured out a way, again, to instill his higher level frequencies, although it might be distorting in this reality, his higher level frequencies in the products that he invented. It's like much like, and again, that sounds, well, that's so far-fetched. Not really. You look at any charismatic leader, they can sell you pretty much anything. I don't want to get into it, but look at all the gurus, the cults. Look at all the people that follow them into death, even. So it happens a lot. So those are, say, I don't want to say Steve's the negative aspect, but the cults and so on, those are the negative ways of using what I'm talking about. Steve used it to a certain level as a positive, right? But that's why we crave those things. That's why certain products have that, say, essence. So in the future, when everybody's elevated and then somebody creates a product, what's happening is that we're going to want that product because it not only provides, say, the service or the niceties or the luxuries that we want and then we need in this physical realm to enjoy this realm, but then it also helps us go to a higher level consciousness. The caveat is, again, we have to be, people creating those products have to be at a higher level consciousness. It happens here today. If you look at some of the products, say the CEO's messed up, the company's messed up, and so on, they make a fantastic product in its technical specs. That product won't go anywhere. And it might be even better looking. It might not be cheaper because cheapness, that might be a luxury item. Again, so you don't want to compare price. But again, it's a better product. But how come it doesn't do as well as, say, some of the other products? That's why. Because it's that essence that people are looking for. They've always looked for it. So that's what we're going to be coming back to at a much, much higher order, much, much higher. A consistency. Because right now it's based on price, simplicity and so on like that. But we're going to be craving, and that's what we're getting into as well, right? As products and services are, say, the essence and frequencies of the people creating those products and services. So what that means, to answer this question, you don't have to be a healer. You can be anybody. And again, that's the way XI works, right? A lot of you are not healers, so-called. As your frequency arises, you heal other people around you. Right? That's the way it works. So imagine the world on how it could be if we all operated at that higher level. All right. Looks like there's a lot more questions going on. So we'll go on to say part 3 uh, of this podcast, Physics of the New World. So look out for that. But as we end part 2, again, it's not about understanding it at the level that you are. So observe, take time, just let it settle in. Okay? And as you ascend higher level frequencies, as you absorb the knowledge, right, we'll get to understand it at a conscious level. So as we end part 2 of Physics of the New World, notice what you notice, and then notice the details of what you notice.